What a crummy quilt. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and this is my weekly vlog number 72 for June the 25th, 2018. So, what have I been up to this week? Of course, some more quilting, some quilting buys, visiting my mother in the hospital, got a couple of really good links to share with you, and yeah, so let's just get into it. Okay, current projects. Quilted binder cover. So, I want to keep all my quilting related, sewing related things, patterns, things like that in one place. So I could put them in a binder, and I was, but then I got thinking, why not make a cover? So I did. I created this binder cover. It is lightly quilted, and it just wraps around inside. Now there are mistakes I made in this. I designed this myself. I mean, you can find lots of designs online for something like this, but you know me, I don't like reading directions and I don't like reading patterns, so I make it up as I go. But it turned out pretty good. But if you want to see the process I went through to create this, I did create an Idiot Quilter video. I believe it's number 14. And you can see why I say that if I was to do this again, I would do several things differently. And basically the things that I did wrong were just stupid idiot moves where I didn't think far enough ahead. That's my problem. When I start to design a project or something, I just kind of go in a linear fashion. I don't necessarily always think it out in as much detail as I should, which is, there's something ironic about that, because when I was a teacher and I wrote lesson plans, I was meticulous in the detail. I always wrote lesson plans as if someone else could pick it up and actually follow the lesson plan and teach the lesson without having done much of any background research or anything before. So really, I should apply that principle to my designing. I guess it's all because I'm new to this and I just don't know. So, but I'm learning. So, what else? Crumb quilt. I did show this too, I believe, on episode 13 of the Idiot Quilter. I saw someone who I'm going to talk about in a few minutes with the YouTube channel of the week, who was creating a crumb quilt. And basically what that is taking all your little bits and pieces that are left over in your stash and just sewing them together to create blocks, and then from there you build your quilt. So I'll give you an example of this, and you saw in the teaser at the beginning of today's vlog, I have it up on my design wall. That is not what the finished product is going to look like. Well, before I jump ahead of that, here's a couple of the squares, and you can just see it's just a mishmash of pieces. You don't really think too hard about it. You just sew, and I cut them down to 6.5-inch blocks, which will make a 6-inch block. I have 6 rows of 5, so that's 30 blocks. And then what I'm going to do to join them, I'm not going to just sew them together like that, because I think that's makes it too crazy. I'm going to put a 1.5-inch piece of sashing between. I've already picked the color. It's sort of a reddy orange color. It'll pick up some of the colors in some of these other pieces, and that'll go in between. So each one of these little squares will become its own little entity on the quilt. Then I'll put probably a wide border on it and finish it up from there. I just think it's kind of fun. It's kind of fast way of creating a quilt from your stash. And those of you that are quilters will understand what I mean by the stash. For those of you that are scrapbookers, you understand stash as well, or crafters in general. We all have stashes of stuff that's been left over from previous projects, and we don't really want to throw it away because we think somewhere down the road it will become useful. And guess what? We never get down to the end of that road. We just keep adding to the stash. So this is something where you can use up fabric. And the other thing too, it's kind of like art journaling for me. When I do something like that, I'm just sewing pieces together. I am not giving it much thought. I'm just going with it. And whatever it turns out to be, it turns out to be. I apply the same principle to when I'm art journaling. I have a basic idea and then I just go, and it always evolves into something else. Sometimes it evolves into something you didn't really want it to evolve into, but most times I find the end product is something that's gone beyond what you were thinking about and is great. So it's a technique of relaxation. It's fun. Just do it. Okay, so those are the two projects. Well, the one I finished, the binder quilt, and then of course the other quilt's ongoing project. So I told you that there was a YouTube video that inspired me to try my own crumb quilt, and this is by a woman named Darlene Michaud. And well, here's my review of her YouTube channel. The YouTube channel of the week is one that's a little bit on the quirky side. I accidentally discovered this one when I was doing a hunt for different things about quilting, and the name of this YouTube channel is the name of the author of this YouTube channel, and it's Darlene Michaud. I think I'm saying that right. I came across this when I was looking for different quilt ideas, and she had a series on doing something called a crumb quilt, which, if you go to the Idiot Quilter episode 14, I talk a little bit about the idea of a crumb quilt. But she also has these really quirky, fun videos of her shopping, and she does a lot of things from her car. She's quite a character. So even if you're not into quilting or into shopping trips or things like that, just watching her for light entertainment is pretty good. She's sort of a down-to-earth lady who basically seems to take a lot of pleasure in life, and she does have some interesting creative ideas as well. So for something fun, something quirky, something a little different, check out Darlene Michaud. So that's just an example of what you can find when you're just randomly shuffling through YouTube and you find something that catches your interest, and away you go. It gives you inspiration. And speaking of inspiration, in the Persons of Interest segment this week, I do have a specific person, but this is a person you have met before, Ngaire Ashdown. I did a segment on her as a person of interest back several weeks ago, and those of you that tune in to Stephen and Walter Live know that Ngaire is usually one of the usual people who comes on and chats with us. And Ngaire lives in Adelaide, Australia, and you know that I've actually met Ngaire. We had coffee and dessert with her and her friend Sandy when we were in Australia this past February. So I came across a Mike Deacon video, and everybody knows who Mike Deacon is. And Mike Deacon lately has been making journals, and they're gorgeous, the journals he's been creating, and he's selling them, and he gets commissioned works. Well, Ngaire commissioned him to make her a journal, and so Mike has a YouTube video showing you the journal, the finished journal, and there's a picture of Ngaire with the journal as well when she received it. So I thought, since we have met Ngaire before on my vlog and on Stephen and Walter Live, that this would be a video you might want to check out. So I've put the link for this video, the Mike Deacon video, down below, so you can check that out. And as far as other links below, there's quite a few this week. There's the one for Stephen and Walter Live that we did this past Sunday night. And I've got the Idiot Quilter episode 14, which is about making the quilted cover for the binder. Then I have a link to the book that I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes. There's a link to Darlene Michaud below as well, and I'm not sure if I'm saying her last name correctly or not, but I think that's how you say it. And then I'm going to talk about a technique for the week, one I haven't tried yet, but there's a series of about 3 YouTube channels, YouTube videos that help you with this particular technique. So I'll refer back to these in a few minutes. And then of course there's the link to the Mike Deacon journal that he created for Ngaire. So that brings us to what's pissing me off this week. Well, let's back up a minute. Quickie update about my mother, just a quickie one. I talked a little bit about this yesterday on Stephen and Walter Live. So at the risk of repeating myself, my mother's still in the hospital. They're still checking out possibilities for her immobility. She had an MRI on Friday. I haven't heard the results yet, but I'm hoping to hear the results today, Monday, because I'm going over there later today to see her and check out on things. I go over every day, pretty much. I didn't make it on Saturday because we were away on Saturday, just overnight, visiting friends up in Aurelia. I'm going to talk about that a little later on as well. But anyways, she's in there. She's comfortable. She's getting fed well, and they are trying to see what's wrong with her mobility. Now, apparently the doctor wants to talk to me, my mother said. I went to the nurse's station when I was over there to visit yesterday, and of course, you know, doctors and hospitals are on their rounds. They're everywhere, and quite frankly, I'm not going to stand around waiting for a doctor on his time. I'm sorry. My time is just as important as his. The other thing is, we have this modern invention called a telephone. He can give me a call. He has my number because he's called me before. So he can give me a call if he wants to talk to me, and away we will go. We suspect that what he wants to tell us is that the MRI showed nothing. I'm pretty sure it would have shown nothing. That has no effect on her. In other words, it's not going to show you something. It's going to say, oh yes, this is why she's not walking properly. I know why she's not walking properly. And I think they want to probably just ship her out. And then she becomes our problem again, so to speak. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be very forceful now. She goes back home. She will not have any assistance except for what I can do and my sister can do, and we can't be there 24/7. If they want to send her to another hospital for rehabilitation, physio, because they were talking about that at one point, well, that's fine. But she'll need to stay at the hospital for this. And if it's going to be done as an outpatient service, I got to say no. Or they got to come up with a solution as how am I going to get her there every day? It's not getting her. That's the major problem, although that is, to be honest, if she has to go for physio every day or every other day, and if they send her to a hospital in one of the cities on the other side of where I live, then basically taking her for, say, a 1-hour appointment, I don't even know if they're an hour long, it'll take 3 hours out of my day to do this. By the time I pick her up at her place, get her in the car, get her to wherever she has to go for the physio, get her in the car, get her back to her place, and that's just exhausting. But that's not the only problem, okay? The other problem is, who's going to get her up in the morning, help her get dressed, help her clean up, help her eat, then all of that kind of stuff. Who's going to do that? I can't do that. Now, they're probably going to say to me, well, you can get PSW help, blah, blah. Fine. If I can get PSW help that's going to look after all of that or whatever, I will, but I'm not taking her home until that's in place. So we'll see. Now, we are going out tomorrow to look at another retirement residence because I'm pretty much got myself resigned to the fact that they are not going to take her. They're not going to hang on to her and wait until an emergency bed becomes available in a long-term care facility. They want her out of there. She can't go back to the apartment on her own. So I'm looking into assisted living. It is expensive, as you know, but I'm going to have to make it work. That's all I can do with that. So we're still checking out places and, looking at the best fit for my mother and all of that. But that's not what I'm pissed off about. What I'm pissed off about is, there she is. This is day 10 of her hospital since she's been put in the hospital. There's not a heck of a lot going on. Now, grant you, my mother, all she ever did when she was at home was sit and watch TV all day. So, why fight it? I got her a TV. Actually, the rooms come with a TV. They're already there. You just have to, you hook it up. All you do is the screen comes up, it says rent me. You push a button and it's supposed to kick in and you give it a credit card number and all this stuff. Well, it didn't work that well. Actually, the first 2 days we were getting TV for nothing because I guess there was leftover on somebody else's account that had been in that bed. Anyways, it's a big business. In the old days, I don't know, they used to have a department with the roll of TV set into the room, set it up for you and that kind of thing. Now it's all done by the internet. So I called the number, which was a number somewhere out in Regina, Saskatchewan. Okay. We live in Ontario, so that's a couple of provinces over. And they hook it all up from their end. So give them a credit card number, and it's not cheap. It's $13 and something a day. And the thing is, they want to know how many days you want it for. Well, I don't know how many days my mother's going to be in bed, you know? So I said, well, you can do it day by day. Well, but I have to call that number every day to renew it. And that's a pain in the butt. I could get a 30-day package where it worked out to about $10 a day. But I said, well, what happens if she's only in for, say, 2 weeks or something like that? Do I get a refund on the time? No. No. You pay for the full 30 days. And I think that's why we had 2 days kind of free, because somebody had a couple of days left on their account and they don't bother to give you a refund, so it was just sitting there. So anyways, I said, what about a week? And she, oh yeah, you can do it for a week or whatever. So I got it for a week for a renewal, and it worked fine, no problem, great. Next day I went over, I said, how's your TV? You know, like I'm figuring she might have trouble getting it turned on and stuff like that. My mother is not very technically savvy. She says, well, it's not working. First thing I thought of, well, here we go. You didn't push something or whatever. Well, I tried it and all I got was a blue screen of death. And I tried everything and it wasn't helping. So it has a little help button. You push that and it gives you the same number I called before. So I called them. And the lady at the other end this time, she's like blaming me for all the problems. And I was a little upset. So I kind of turned to Walter, forgetting I was on my cell phone at the same time. And I kind of made a sign to him about like I'm getting frustrated with this person and whatnot. And I kind of used a 4-letter word. Well, I got told off on the other end. Sir, there is no need for that kind of language. And I didn't really think she could hear me because I thought she had cut me off for a minute when she was going to check something, but she's still there. So I said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just frustrated and the whole bit. So we worked on it for a good 10 minutes. Nothing happened. She tried this and that. She says, okay, sir. She says, we will have to have a technician come and look at it. And I said, okay, fine. How does that work? I'm thinking they can do it from their end. Oh, no. They send a physical person to the hospital, to my mother's bedside to check out the TV. And she says, they only work on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'll schedule him to come in on Thursday and look it over at some time during the day. And I thought, oh, this is Wednesday. Okay, great, excellent service, whatever. So, and then I said, now what about the fact that I paid for this for a week and now we're going into 1 or 2 days without it? She says, oh, you just call us back when the TV's working. It's all this we have to call them back kind of thing. And we'll just adjust the timing and give you credit for that or whatever. Okay, fine. So, next day I came over and, yep, sure enough, oh no, I was there too early. The technician had not shown up yet. All right, fine. He did show up. I was gone by then. He did show up later in the day, much later in the day, got it all operational. Because the next day I went in to see my mother. And she said, yeah, it's working fine, no problem. So I immediately phoned the company again and told them about this. I said, I was told, I got a different person, of course, again, and told them what the problem was. And she looked it up. Oh, yeah, she saw the technician been there and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, they told me to call because, you know, we got it for a week. We had 2 days without it. You were going to attach the next 2 days to the end of that. And so she did. However, I was on the phone for another 10 minutes because I don't know what this person was doing. But I could hear a lot of clicking, a lot of this, a lot of that. And I'm thinking to myself, good thing this is a toll-free number because this would be racking it up because I'm calling Regina from Ontario. So they did get that sorted around and I think everything is fine now, I hope. But what annoys me about technology, about these kind of things, sure, when it works, it's wonderful. When it doesn't work, it's hell. And these people that supposedly this is their job and the whole thing, they seem to be subject to this technology as well. You would think because at their end that they're at their end, that they know what they're doing in the whole bit. I don't find that they do. Now, you know, especially in a hospital, you know, this kind of thing, for my mother, she just said, well, it's no big deal. I don't know what she does, stares at the ceiling all day. That's about it. I got her some magazines, but she doesn't read anymore. So, I mean, this is really bad. You would think they would give priority service to people in a hospital. But no, this seems to be a broken record for me right now. And it's the reality. So don't think I'm naive about this. I'm not. Everything revolves around the almighty dollar. Everything. If you've got the money, you can get whatever you want. If you're making the money, you can control whatever you want. And all the rest of us, and that's the minority of people in the world, all the rest of us are caught in between that. And then that woman, yes, I'm sorry, I used a 4-letter word. I didn't really mean it to sound like it was directed at her. But you know, people in customer services now have gotten very arrogant about their jobs. They think they have rights, that people shouldn't be upset with them. Yes, I'll admit that being in public service as a teacher, I get it, I understand. But do they understand that you're causing grief in a person's life? And you can't dismiss yourself as a customer service person from that and blame it on the technology, blame it on your powers that be above you. You can't. You can't. You're in this job, you know you're going to get people that are upset. It is your job to try and make them calm, help them out. Now, that doesn't always work, but, you know, I'm sorry that I used the 4-letter word. I am. You know, it was out of my frustration in the whole bit. And yes, that person did not deserve what she thought was directed at her. No, she did not with it. But I, as the customer, also deserve to have efficient service that is, polite and whatnot. Now, I have to say that people on the phone these days, on legitimate services, do try to be very friendly and helpful and efficient to the best of their ability. And I would hope so. But I think one of the requirements of when you hire people for these jobs, that you check out their personality very carefully, because it's your company. And you know, like for example, there's a cable company here, and I'll name it, Rogers. Their customer service sucks. Majorly sucks. To the point where I will not have anything to do with Rogers. I go to their competition. And you know why I go to their competition? It's not necessarily that my internet connection, my television connections, things like that are better through them, but the customer service is better. And that makes the difference, I really think. If, for example, if you walk into a store and you ask for some help and you get some disgruntled employee who jumps all over your head when you come in, or doesn't know anything, like i.e. Michael's, they never know anything in Michael's about any of the crafts there. I mean, when you find an employee there that actually knows what you're talking about or asking about, that's a rarity, and you just want to hang on to that person and lead them all around the store with you and never let go of their hand. But if you get treated in a store when you ask for help like people don't care about you the whole bit, well, do you go back to that store? Probably not. Or if you have to go to that store because it's the only one in town, you're probably very wary, and probably you're not in a really good mood when you have to be in there. You want to get in, get out. It's not good for business, okay? So I guess what I'm pissed off about, which started up with this TV hookup and all the problems, is again, just how everybody wants your money, but no one wants to give you service for things. And I know of what I speak because I worked in retail as well after I retired for a while. And as a summer student, I did as well. So I know what it's all about, what it's like, what kind of people you're going to have to deal with. Even as a teacher, I knew that too. I had your good parents, I had your nut jobs. You know, and I had to deal with all of them. And especially in a job like being a teacher, as much as inside of me I would have liked to have just put my hands around their throat and choked the life out of them, or called them every name in the book, I could not do that in my position. So I get it. I get it. But if you're in the service industry, then my advice is this. Try to reassure the customer that you will look after things and that they're important to you. Explain to them what you are doing. Don't just put them on hold and go, can you hold for a minute, and just play music. Let them know what you are doing. Let them know why it's taking longer than usual. I mean, that's all we want to know, because, you know, knowledge is, what is it? There's an expression, and I can't think of it now. Something is, you know, education is knowledge. I don't know, knowledge. But an informed customer is a happy customer, I guess is what I want to say. All we want to know is what's going on. Don't leave us in the dark. So anyways, this was a bit all over the place. I know that, but lately my mind has been all over the place because, and you know why that is. You know, I'm worried about a lot of things right now, and I'm hitting a lot of brick walls. And, you know, you bang your head a couple of times on a brick wall, what do you get? Headache. So anyways, let's move on. Let's get this train back on its track, shall we? Okay, let's move to product reviews. So I got a few things today. The other week, I bought this little cute mini camera iron. Okay, it's a steam iron. It's meant as a travel iron, but I've seen a lot of quilters on YouTube videos using this when they have to press down a seam really quick and don't want to really get up to where their main iron is. So I've set this up in a very convenient spot in my sewing room, right almost next to my sewing machine. And so when I was doing something like these crumb quilts and I had to do the seams and add the next one each time, this came in very handy. And it's good. It gets really hot, gives a lot of steam. It's ergonomically nice to hold on to, and it's got a nice long cord and the whole bit. So this was a good investment. So if you're in the market for something like this because you're a quilter or sewer, or even if you know you want to take an iron with you when you travel, of course, you know, put in your suitcase. Though this will add some poundage to it because this is not, it's not real heavy, but it's not real light. It's substantial. I wouldn't even be able to guess. Half a pound? Maybe it might be a whole pound. I don't know. I can never judge that kind of thing. It's a good travel iron, and it's not expensive. Canadian, it cost me with tax, I got free shipping off of Amazon, about $45. I think it came out to. So, not bad. Okay. Oh, actually, it would be a good iron too, just for everyday use, you know, for collars, cuffs, whatever, to get in there with it. That is if you iron shirts. I don't iron shirts. They're either permanent press or I don't buy them. Simple as that. Okay, so that's one thing. And then we were up to this place north of us. I'm going to talk more about it later, to visit some friends in a town called Aurelia, and they had a quilting store there. And my friend that we're visiting, she's a major quilter, really good quilter, okay? And she's been doing it for years. So she took us up to this quilting store, and I bought a bunch of things actually. But you know that I want to make a queen size quilt for our bed because we've redone the bedroom. And I've been looking for patterns. I was thinking of designing my own in electric quilt and things like that. I knew I kind of wanted a star type of pattern, but certain star designs, they sew them, I think it's called point to point or point on point, and basically you have something called Y seams. And these supposedly send shivers up most people's backs about doing them. And I've watched some videos about how to do them, and they definitely take some practice, I think. Well, I don't want to practice on a quilt for my bed. But I was talking to a lady in this store. I think it was called Thimbles and Things in Aurelia. So if you're ever up in Aurelia, Ontario, go to Thimbles and Things. And she pointed this pattern out to me. And she had actually one of these done and hanging up in the store. So I took a picture of it. It was slightly different colors. But this, I think it's got it upside down. Well, I don't think it matters, but this right here is the design. I love this design. So now I've got the pattern. I've got on the back of this, it tells you everything that you need for it. Those aren't not the colors I'm going to use. I'm going to use sort of blues and purples and things like that into it because I like blue, I like purple. And I might limit the colors. I don't know how many colors are in this, six fabrics in here. I think the one they had on display in the store had less colors and still look equally as good. So I have to decide that out. But I didn't want to buy all the fabric I need for this up there in Aurelia for a couple of reasons. One, I want Walter with me. Well, he was there that day, but we need to sit down and really think about the color scheme we want to have. And two, I would like a little help picking out those colors. So the ladies over at Ultimate Sewing, where I always go, are great for that. And so they'll help me out with this as well, make the right choices. And also, I want to support my local quilting store as well. And I like their selection of fabrics. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this over probably tomorrow when we're out and about and probably get the materials that I need for this quilt and then get started on it once I get the crumb quilt finished. I understand now what they call UFOs, unfinished objects, in the quilting world. I can see how that happens. So far, I have been able to keep up. I don't start a new project until I'm finished the old project. However, that may not be true for much longer because I'm kind of dying to get on with this one. I want to get the crumb quilt finished. And the other thing I bought was this. Now, what this is another pattern, but it is a fusible material that you basically paper piece. If you know what paper piecing is, your piece is to create this giant star. You don't have to worry about getting Y seams with this, but you're basically sewing the material. I don't know if this shows it on the back. You see this? You have sheets like this, and you're just paper piecing all the material. It has all the directions, shows you how to do it, down, sewing it onto that, and then you don't have to worry. You pull the fusible stuff off, I think, when you're finished, and you've got your quilt. You just sew the blocks. These make the blocks. You sew them together. You don't have to worry about Y seams, and everything's very accurate. And so when you're doing something like this, accuracy is extremely important. Now this will make a queen size quilt as well. These are not necessarily the colors I would use in it. Again, this is a project I have to think about. So I might end up making 2 queen size quilts, and whichever one we like better will become the one for the our bed, and the other one will go for the guest bed probably. So I may have a lot of projects on the go, and we'll see how that all works out. So I may be one of those people that has unfinished UFOs, unfinished objects laying around. Okay, so I bought some other things up at that store too. A couple of little rulers that I wanted that Ultimate Sewing didn't have in stock. I bought a thimble. Yeah, a metal thimble. I mean, I don't do a lot of hand sewing because I hate hand sewing. But there have been occasions when I've had to go through several layers, and the needle, it gets a little hard, so I didn't have a thimble. So I bought a thimble. And I bought some little, they're called, well, they're different names, but for making half square triangles, again, it's a form of paper piecing, but it creates very accurate half square triangles. And they had these strips of pattern paper. You sew right on top of them, and it shows you where to cut and everything like that to make a bunch of these. And those are the most fundamental, I think, basis for blocks are half square triangles. They're very versatile. You see them in lots of patterns. There will be some in this pattern too as well. So I thought I got a couple of different sizes, and it just makes making them more accurate and I think faster. So I bought that too. I could spend a lot more money up there. As it was, I spent about $200. My friend, I think she spent about $500. She bought a lot of fabric, and they were having sort of a sale on as well because it was Christmas in June in Aurelia, and we're going to come to that in a second. Anything else to show you? No, not really. So let's go to the book review of the week. And this is something a little different. Now, I have to admit, I tried this out, and I got a lot of stuff to do this, but I didn't pursue it much further. But I know lots of people that do it, and it's called Weaving Freeform Wire Jewelry. And this book takes you through the fundamentals of how to do this kind of thing, what equipment you might need, and the different ways of bending your wire and whatnot. The reason I didn't get too far into it was it's fairly intricate work because you're using a fairly thin wire, jewelry grade wire for this. And it, like anything, to get good at it takes practice, and I just wasn't that willing to spend the time to put into it. I made a couple of pieces which I used in some mixed media artwork, but it's still very interesting. And if you're into jewelry, see, I'm not really into jewelry, so that's the other reason. I think a book like this you would really like. And on the back you can see some of the things, and some of these things get very elaborate. And I know that there's a lot of people who make jewelry, do beadwork, things like that. So if you want to get into this, check out a few YouTube videos first about it, and then I highly recommend this book. It wasn't a cheap book, but our book's cheap. We've talked about that. $29.50 it cost me, but I went on to Amazon, and you can get it on Amazon for, I think, it might be in around the same price. I don't think it was necessarily cheaper. I didn't check out to see if there were used copies of it or not, but it is available. And of course, I'm quoting everything in Canadian dollars. Okay, so this is it. Freeform Wire Jewelry by Kaska Firor. Firor? There's her name right there. Okay, so that's book review of the week. And I kind of like doing these book reviews because it forces me to go through my collection, and I'm finding things that I have forgotten all about and think I should go back and, let's revisit that technique, or look through and find techniques that I may have done before but have forgotten all about. So it's good for that too. So what's the inspiration for this week? All right, I said there was 3 links in the resource list today that I was going to talk about a little later. So I'll talk about those now. Boiled papers. Now, I have not heard about this, but somebody on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday, and I'm sorry when I say somebody, my memory of who said what specifically is not good these days at all. And so I apologize. I should give credit where credit is due to the person who brought this up. But anyways, I went and checked out some YouTube videos, and I think it might have been, and sorry if I get this wrong, I think it was Kathy Patterson who sent me, no, it might not have been Kathy, it was somebody on my YouTube channel, again I apologize, who sent me 3 links to 3 videos showing you how to do these boiled papers. And essentially what it is you go out and you pick stuff, leaves, weeds, flowers, whatever, cedar boughs, that kind of stuff, and you take some paper, and some people use watercolor paper, other people just use copier paper, whatever you got laying around, or a variety, maybe some plain envelopes, that kind of stuff, and you stack these. You make layers. So you take a piece of paper, and on top of it you lay down some leaves and some of the flowers. Then you put another sheet of paper on top of that, another layer of foliage, and so on and so on. Kind of like you were making layers if you were going to do dried flowers or something like that. And then essentially you kind of tie it all together. One of the videos I saw, the lady used wooden blocks. Another one used some kind of wire, heavy wire screening that she got at a hardware store, and put them all together in a layer, tie it all down, secure it. You put it into a big pot of water that you bring to a boil, and I think you put in a cup of white vinegar in there as well, and you let it boil, and then bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for about an hour and a half. take it out, let it cool off, and then untie the bundle and take each layer of paper out and remove the foliage, and you have these interesting designs that have been stained into the paper. And I haven't tried it yet, but I want to try it because I think it's a really cool way to make, in a sense, homemade paper. Everything's going to come out different. Some things will come out better than others, but I think it's really cool. So you might want to check out those 3 videos that I've listed in the resources about boiled papers and maybe give it a shot yourself. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, to try it. When the mood hits me, I will. But I thought it was a really cool idea. So thank you to all those people who gave me the links and who mentioned this on Stephen and Walter Live. That's great because I had never ever heard of this technique. Okay, so speaking of techniques and tools, and today, what's in my drawers, I'm going to show you my stencils. So today on What's in My Drawers, I want to discuss stencils. I have a lot of stencils, as you can see right here. Now, these are not all of my stencils. I still have a drawer full of these. I probably have well over 200 stencils in various shapes and sizes. And you might want to know why I have so many stencils. Well, it's very simple. I'm a stencil junkie, or I was. I have cut back on stencils a little bit because, quite frankly, I'm not sure what I've got anymore. I have every stencil that Tim Holtz actually has made. And I continue to buy them as he comes out with new ones all the time. In fact, I have duplicates in here as well because sometimes I bought several of the same one because I was doing a special class with these. The thing about Tim Holtz's stencils that I like is the fact that you can do them on tags, you can do them on smaller art journaling pages, or you can use them on a large one. So they're very versatile. They're also just cool. Just very cool. And you can see how I store them. I put the shower curtain ring through them, and I put them in numerical order, and I can find whatever I want when I want. And you can also see that these are very well used too. So those are ones that I keep up on. I was buying a lot of 6x6 stencils from various companies like the Crafters Workshop, that kind of thing, Julie Fafe Belzer's, and there's other ones. And I like them as well, but again, we have this bit of a storage problem with these, and this is just one folder. These little holders were meant for 6x6 stencils. I think they'll even hold 8x8, which are a little bit more rare in size, I think. But I bought these from Clarity Stamps in England, and they weren't that bad for price, but by the time you added up shipping, the difference between the pound and the Canadian dollar, I can't even remember what I paid for each one. I think I probably paid close to $10 for each one, and I bought 4 of them, but they're actually kind of nice. Of course, I haven't got any more of these, so I've run out of space, basically. Of course, I have large stencils, 12x12 stencils, and I keep them in this paper pouch. And it's not the best of ways of storing your stencils, I find, because they stick to some of the plastic inserts and things like that. But it's one method to do it. Now, I've seen other people who will actually take these and put them into like a scrapbook album with the 12x12 page protectors, and that works too. But this is what I have at the moment. Let's move this out of the way. Then, of course, there's Mike Deacon's stencils, and you've heard me talk about those before. And every month he comes out with a couple of new ones, and I buy them. These are the newest ones, and you can see they're still in the original package. I haven't even used them yet. Bit of a glare on that. They're high quality. They're reasonably priced, even with the shipping. So I continue to buy them, but I am now starting to question myself as to, do I really need to keep buying stencils? Because when you get to this point where you're not even using them, and I have a few Tim Holtz ones I've never used as well, now we've got an addiction. Okay, that's an addiction. Also, for storing Mike Deacon ones, I have these 12x12 page protectors, but they're basically page protectors that hold like their 6x6 format. And for the life of me, I can't find where. I thought I had extra ones of these. I just put them together with these little rings. and they fold over quite nicely. And actually, this does a fairly good job of keeping your stencils organized, and it folds up like that. Gotta find where when I did restructured the whole craft room a year ago, I put them somewhere, and now I can't find them. But again, does one person need this many stencils? Probably not. Then, of course, I did draw the line at these ones. I bought a package of these smaller stencils, and Tim Holtz has some smaller stencils too, which are basically just cut down versions of his regular size ones. So I got these little ones because I thought they'd be good for ATC cards, which I never make, and other things. And I've used them a few times. There's one that one's kind of cool. I've never used that one. It's still clean. So I have those, but really I don't usually buy stencils this size. And then I have homemade stencils, which I have made. These are just on cardstock, printed out, but they could be used as a stencil. You could cut them on your Cricut Explorer or your Cricut Maker. I cut these on the Cricut Maker, and you know, you can change them into a stencil or into a mask as well. And you can get stenciling material that will go in your machine, or you can do them out of acetate. That works too. Or a heavy piece of, you know, packaging plastic. That'll work as well, but you have to fool around with the settings on your machine. So, as you can see, I have a lot of stencils. And storage is a problem with stencils, and I've seen many different ways of doing this, but basically what I do is I've got a big drawer, and I throw them all into the drawer, which doesn't make them easy for finding. And I also find that I usually, when I'm using stencils in an art journal page, I usually go to about 5 or 6 standbys that I use for everything. So I wouldn't want to even guess how much money I have tied up in stencils. Okay, I think I'm over the addiction, except for Tim Holtz ones and Mike Deacon's. So am I over the addiction? Don't think so. So yeah, you might say I have a hoarder attitude when it comes to stencils, and I need to break out of that because I'm not using them. You saw all those ones that I haven't used yet. So anyways, everybody has an addiction. Moving on. All right, so events in this past week. Well, I told you about Mom, gave you an update there. Went to a retirement party for a lady that I worked with at during my career at different schools and things like that. Very talented woman, teacher, librarian, that kind of thing. Well, she's decided to take the plunge and retire, so I went to her retirement party the other day. At first I didn't think I would go. I gave the donation and the whole bit, but then I thought, nah, I'm not, because of what was going on in the week with my mom and everything, I thought, I just don't feel like going. But I did. Walter said, I think you should. The other reason I didn't want to go is because I've been out of the profession for 6 years now. And, you know, people move on in their life and in education, and I knew probably a lot of the people that would be at this retirement party are probably people still working. And because this particular individual that was retiring has had quite a busy career, she's been to many schools, board office, things like that. She knows a lot of people. And I just find that I end up standing in a corner not talking to anybody. But the last minute I decided, oh, what the heck, go. So I did go, and I was really happy that I did, because I ran into some people I did know, and I ran into one person I have not seen in years, and I had started my teaching career working with this person as well. And even though we went to different schools over time and things like that, we usually stayed in touch. And there were several other people not at this retirement party, but are part of this little group of people that we all had worked together at the same school. We used to get together and have dinner, you know, every few months or 6 months, something like that. And that kind of petered out over the years, as these things sometimes do. But we might be rejuvenating it, because after my connection with this person, I gave my email to her, and she's still in contact with actually a gentleman who's been retired for quite a while now, but who taught me and was really my mentor when I became a teacher, because I taught with him for about 10 years, 11 years. And also, he's probably the reason I became a teacher. He really inspired me. So, you know, I like those kind of stories, because I have had people come up to me and tell me that because of me, they became a teacher. So, you know, it's a circle thing, and it makes you feel really good. Although, Teaching now is not what teaching was when I first started 30 some years ago. Anyways, I digress. It was really nice to see her and everything, and it was a nice retirement party. It wasn't huge, it was intimate, and it was just nice. So I'm glad that I went. And this just brings up some things that I say. I've got to live by my philosophy. If you turn around and you say, oh, I just don't feel like doing that, do it anyways, because that becomes a bad habit. You know, that's when you start becoming housebound. That's when you start not seeing people. You stop challenging yourself. That keeps your brain going, things like that. So, yeah, thank goodness for Walter pushing me, because it was really him. He says, I think you should go. I think you should go. And I went, and I'm glad I did. So, other things. Okay, this was Big Pride weekend for the LGBTQ community out here. And that's the big parade they have in Toronto, and it's one of the largest ones, if not the largest one, in North America. It draws over 1 million people come to see it, and that's why we didn't go, and we haven't gone for the last few years, because it is a zoo. There are far too many people, and I'm the kind of person, I don't like crowds. I don't have really a phobia, but I just don't like crowds. I don't like the fact you're trying to go to an event and you basically can't see anything, hear anything, because there's all these people. A lot of the people that come out to this are straight people. They're not members of the gay community. They come out with their family, with their kids and everything to see the parade, and that's fine. That's great. You know, the more the merrier. But it's just too busy. You just can't move, literally, for the parade. And then there's always, like, one of the main streets in Toronto that is traditionally known as the gay district. The streets are all shut down to, you know, vehicle traffic, and there's vendors and everything, hundreds of vendors. There's beer gardens, there's all the bars are open, there's music, different stages with entertainment there, and it's a zoo. You literally, they close off about 5-6 blocks of the street, and you literally, to get from one end to the other, will take you probably over an hour, because you're doing this all the time. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And people are slopping things around, you know, they're drinking. Now, they're not allowed to drink on the street. They're supposed to drink in the beer gardens, the areas that are designated for this kind of thing. But, you know, it happens. Now, it is police patrolled, and it doesn't happen a lot, but they're still there. And so they're slopping stuff on you. Or even if they're just drinking a Coke or whatever, a coffee, just simply because they're not throwing it at you. It's just because you're you're bumping into them because you can't help it, and, you know, don't wear anything nice, kind of a deal. And, of course, then you get the a-holes, especially later in the day, who are just tanked right up. Had way too much to drink or possibly to smoke. And you know now that as of October the 17th, marijuana is legal in Canada. It was actually supposed to happen on July the 1st. That's what our Prime Minister was promising on his platform. And I explained the whole procedure in how something becomes a law in Canada on Stephen and Walter Live yesterday, so you might want to check out that discussion if you're interested in that. And needless to say, though, even though it doesn't become legal until October the 17th, there's gonna be people out there lighting up. Now, there's always people out there lighting up. But, you know, actually, I'm all for legalizing marijuana and that, but people have to treat it the same way as we're supposed to treat alcohol. And there's always the idiots who don't. And they become obnoxious, and it just disrupts the good time other people are trying to have. So needless to say, we don't go anymore, okay? In fact, I haven't even watched anything yet showing the highlights of the parade, so it's usually on the news, but they usually also, I probably will be able to find it in a day or two. Someone will have probably posted the whole thing on YouTube, so I can check that out. So anyways, we didn't go, but what we did do, we had been invited to our friends' boat. They have a really big boat, and it was going to be docked up in this town called Aurelia that I've already mentioned, for the weekend because they do something up there every June called Christmas in June. And all these boaters, they decorate their boats for Christmas, and they have a little party down there. It was a martini themed party. So we were there for the weekend. We stayed on their boat overnight and the kind of thing. So it was fun. Patricia and Bob are great people, a lot of fun to be with. Patricia and I worked together for years, so we know each other very well. And she is also a very, very good quilter. Been doing it for years as well. So, you know, it was fun, and we hadn't seen them in a while, so it was fun to get together and enjoy. And so it was also, she's retiring this year, and so she's got the end of this week, she will be officially retired from teaching. And so we did a little retirement in a bag. And I put a bag together with a fascinator in it that said, you know, retired and fabulous. She had a sash that said the same thing. We had a bottle of cheap champagne all decorated up, and we also, you know, I put in some of my cards that I make in there, and we had a little gift certificate to a fabric store for her as well, you know, just to make things a little bit special. So anyways, I'm going to share this with you in the video clip that I'm about to insert here right now. So enjoy. Okay, so we're on our way to Aurelia to our friend's boat, and it's Christmas in Aurelia. And all
it was Christmas in June.
Or Christmas in June, yeah. Christmas in June, whatever they call it. Well, here we're stopped at a siding for a railway, for a train. There's a time like this back, one of the other times we
went to that quilt store up here. Or not quilt.
No, we didn't go to the quilt store. We went to the craft store, and we sat here forever as two trains were trying to shuttle back and forth. One advantage this time is it looks like this train's moving at a pretty good speed, and we're first in line here. So we'll see. We are now in the big metropolis of Mississauga. Actually, we're not in the
Mississauga.
Sorry, Aurelia. Did I say Mississauga?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we're in Aurelia, and here's Walter coming down off of the Alberta Rose 2, which is our friends Patricia and Bob's boat. And you can see this is the back of their boat. It's a big boat. A view out in the water, and it's Christmas here in June in Aurelia. Walter's taking a picture of the boat. And you can see everybody's got their boats decorated. And so now we're about to head into the town to go to a quilting store. So this will be on YouTube. There you go. So
we go.
It's Patricia's retiring. So this is retirement in a bag for her with her fascinator, her wine glass, or whatever she wants to put in that, and a set of cards.
Champagne.
So, yep, champagne, that's what we got. And there's champagne is right over there as well. And I did wash the glass. So, just to keep it safe.
And how you wash is...
Okay, so you know the secret now. Bob already knew that, but
absolutely.
This is Bob, captain of the boat.
Hello.
There you go.
Oh, this is
Excellent.
beautiful.
Thank you, Stephen.
No
And
problem.
Walter.
It'll be on YouTube next week. Yep. Okay, so this is retired and fabulous look. Here we go. It's her sash, her fascinator, the bottle of booze, and the special wine glass.
There you go.
Yes, there we go. Queen for a day.
Yes, yes, yes.
Some of us are queen
I
for
have
life.
a lot of competition.
Yes, correct.
So are we...
Oh yeah?
Do you think it's an Aurelia original-ish?
So here we are. This is now having the this Patricia with their glass, and this is there a name for this? What do you call it? I know it's Christmas in June.
In
Yes.
Aurelia.
In Aurelia.
Which is the closest weekend to the 25th of June.
Okay.
And this is an annual event where the boaters come in, they decorate their boats, and more importantly, they party. But we're at Starport Landing, and so we have all these boats that are pre-done, and what you're seeing is the party that's being arranged by Starport, which involves 3 different kinds of martinis. We've got regular, chocolate, and apple. And then the boaters have brought a variety of different appetizers. And tonight there will be pizza for dinner and then dancing on the barge. Steve will now take over.
Okay, so, don't get too used to this. It's still my vlog. All right, people, I want you to know it's still my vlog. Okay? Be sure to subscribe. And this is the silent half.
Yes, very much
The
the
captain,
half.
The captain of the boat.
Yes, aye.
Captain, oh my captain, or whatever that shit's about. Whatever. And right here you can see this is Santa's boat. Right here, this is Santa's workshop. It says right there, Santa's workshop. And look at Santa's got his toys and everything here. And yes, just because everybody will be asking, Walter is here.
Walter is
There he
here.
is. He's got like a drink in his hand. What are you having? A green
apple martini.
And so, yeah, more later. Okay, so it's a little later in the evening. Now we're going down for the evening thing down here. We really don't know what to expect, but it's supposed to be dance music and whatever. And so we'll see. We'll be back.
So that was the highlight of the week. And I did have my sewing class on Friday night. I had missed the first one, but I caught up, and that's good. That's the BQ boot camp, Basic Quilters boot camp. I was supposed to have a sewing class, the serger class, and we're doing scarves right now. But the lady who teaches it, who's also the owner of Ultimate Sewing, she was sick, so they canceled that class. They just tack it on to the end. So this week, on Tuesday night, I'll be sewing an infinity scarf and a regular scarf, learning how on the serger. I don't think I'll be wearing them, but maybe if they turn out okay, then I'll give one to my mother, one to my sister, or something like that. It's more or less not the product that's important, it's the process. That's what I'm trying to learn with the serger. So I'm sure it is what I call a transferable skill by learning how to make these scarves. So that's Tuesday night. And also on Thursday night, I missed the one class because I had to take my mother to the hospital and everything that I was looking so forward to, and that's the free motion quilting class. And Sharon, who teaches that class, she said, just come in a little early before our class on Thursday night, because she teaches that class too, the boot camp class. And she says, in 45 minutes, I can show you what I teach in that class, no problem, one-on-one, which I think is very, very generous of her. And that's, again, another reason why I go to this particular quilting store, because the people that work there are excellent. They can't do too little for you. And if you go back to my little rant earlier, they are a fine example of what customer service is all about, and probably the reason why their store is always busy. So anyways, put in a little plug here. They are not sponsoring me. Nobody sponsors me. Nobody wants to sponsor me. Well, I haven't tried, really. Anyways, it's called, if you're ever in Oshawa, Ontario, Canada, do check out Ultimate Sewing on Bloor Street in Oshawa. And they have a website, and if you go ultimatesewing.com, you can check out their site and other things about them. So, even if you're from somewhere far away, go to their website. You'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so that was last week. So what's coming up this week? Well, each day is something new. As I said, we have an appointment to see another retirement residence. That's tomorrow. And of course, we have to keep checking on my mom and everything and find out what's going there. So I don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen in the hospital, which I don't like that feeling, because I'm the kind of person that doesn't like surprises. I like to know what we're doing, what's going on, where we go from here. Let's have a plan. And this just kills me when I don't have that thing. It's the control freak in me. I keep getting a glare off my glasses. Sorry. And but on the weekend, this is our big weekend, long weekend. It's Canada Day. July the 1st is Canada Day. It is when we became, in 1867, officially a country, and no longer just a British colony. So this weekend coming is July the 1st, actually falls on Sunday this year, so it becomes a long weekend. And we usually go to a place just east of us, about slightly less than an hour's drive east, called Cobourg, and it's on Lake Ontario. And they have a huge artisans market there. It's sponsored by the Rotary Club, I think, and there's just hundreds of booths. I think it costs you $5 to get into this, and it's got all kinds of junk. Well, it's not junk, but you know what I mean. It's like jewelry, people's jewelry that they make. There's art. There's silk scarves. There's all kinds of interesting things. Baked goods, you know, all that kind of thing. And I like wandering around. We like wandering around and checking it all out. I don't often buy anything there, but I get ideas. And that's why I like to go, because I see something, go, I could do something in fabric like that, or I could do an art piece like that, or an art journaling or something. It inspires me. I always get some ideas. And I actually pull out my cell phone and I have a little notepad in there, and I just list all the ideas. And whether or not I actually get around to doing them, that's another story. But there's something about it. It just inspires you. It regenerates you. It makes you want to run home and start being creative. That's what I find. So it gives me that energy, and I like going there. And then we often will find some pub or something to go to, and hopefully we can get in on a patio or something like that, and you know, have a pint and whatever. And if it's a nice day, and I hope it's a nice day, because that makes all the difference too. You know, if it's rainy, that's not nice. If it's coolish, that's not nice. But if it's sunny and you're down on the lake and the whole bit, it can be really, really nice. So that's coming up, and I will try to do some video while I'm there as well. Now I'm trying to think. I think I do have some video on one of my vlogs of last year's when we went down. I think I may have done some then too, but this is a new year, so I'll put up a new video with that. So that's next weekend. And I think that's about all that's coming up. Can't think of anything else. So anyways, that's all for me today. I hope you have a really good week. Stephen and Walter Live will be on next Sunday at the usual time, 4 o'clock. And people were mentioning they weren't getting notifications of when that was coming up. Okay, just a reminder, there's something screwy about YouTube these days. I don't know what it is, but one of the problems is this notification. So click on the little bell below, that's in, you know, below here where the comments and things are, and watch very carefully. When you click on the bell, a little black bar will pop up. I'm trying to do this. Pop up here in the bottom of your screen, and it will say get all notifications, or occasional notifications, or no notifications. And it's like a toggle. So if it comes up and it says no notifications or just occasional notifications, just hit again that bell, and until you get one that comes up and says all notifications. And then that should solve the problem, I think. I don't know. But I've had that problem too, and that's what I had to do to solve it. So just a little tip. Okay, great. Thanks for joining me today. Hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next week or on Stephen and Walter Live. Bye-bye for now.